welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, ETNA's daily platform for the micro, small and medium scale enterprise industry. On the series is our endeavor to celebrate entrepreneurship, bring you expert advice from renowned business leaders and help you grow every aspect of your business. Today, I'm in conversation with Ganesh Natarajan. He's the executive chairman and founder at 5World. He's also the former CEO at Zensar Technologies. Ganesh, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. Let me kick the show off by asking you to just run us through the concept and the idea behind 5World.
Well, 5World is actually a platform we've created, which is, around the theme of investing in learning and community companies. What that means is all aspects of technology that enable better learning. We are ourselves investing about 3 to 4 crores in one very significant learning startup. And in addition, investing in others. We have an investment in a skill startup, evaluating one more, and also communities. When I say communities, I mean technology enabling communities for smart cities, communities that enable idea generation and collaboration in companies. Again, we've identified 2 companies where we'll be investing. So it's more of an investment, mentoring and growth platform that we've created.
You were the helm of Zensar Technologies for several years, helping to steer it through and grow it really to the critical size that it's now at. What were some of the highlights really of that journey?
A lot of the highlights that I learned in Zensar, it was my second CEO stint because I ran this company AppTech for 10 years and then moved to Zensar in 2001 and had a really wonderful 15-year tenure. I think what we learned was that ultimately growth is all about people. If you motivate people well, give them a mission in life and a vision that they can really communicate with, you see growth happening, and that was one big learning. So I would say the real success of Zensar eventually was the focus on the triple bottom line. Not only were we very successful in creating shareholder value, in fact in the last 5 years, almost a 44% CAGR every year in shareholder value, but in addition, very strong focus on people. We had some of the best retention records in the entire industry, and most important to me, very strong focus on planet. Even before the CSR bill was introduced, we were really investing very appropriately in CSR. So I think this triple bottom line approach of people, planet, profits is really what differentiated Zensar, and which I believe will carry the company through and make it a winner even in the years to come.
Let's talk digital, Ganesh. Do you see midcap and MSME IT companies using digital in a big way now compared to a few years ago?
Well, I think so, because if you really look at the agenda that most companies should have, take the case of Zensar. 4 years ago, we were less than 4% of our business came from digital. End of March 2016, it was almost 27%, which is a significant success story. And when I say digital, today if you look at good companies, they're looking at digital as way beyond the initial cloud and mobility that people were looking at. So whether it's complete social transformation, complete cloud as in infrastructure, platform, software as a service, and most important, some of the new areas, user experience, user interfaces, deep learning and artificial intelligence, a lot of work in the area of information security. So it's now become mainstream. And I think any company, and it doesn't matter whether it's large, small or very, very small, will have to have a digital story to be able to succeed and help clients in the whole aspect of digital transformation.
Ganesh, you've been an integral part of the technology industry for several years now. How do you see companies changing and adapting more to technology as India changes?
Well, I think we have a big agenda because I just took over as the head of digital for the Indian Merchants Chamber. And there again, the whole focus has been that how do small companies really change with the changing views of technology. So I think that is happening, because even if you look at small manufacturing companies, they're exploring areas like Internet of Things, even some of the very small aggregators of retail stores, for instance. You're really looking at price discovery of various components or various goods that you buy. So I think every company, irrespective of whether it's in retail, manufacturing, insurance, banking, and whether it's medium, small or large, is looking at digital, because that's one way you can integrate your supply chains, you can communicate better with customers and really make a substantial difference in terms of very profitable growth.
In your experience and in your opinion, are MSMEs using technology more aggressively now than previously?
Not enough in my opinion, because I think there's still a long way to go. And even today, in some small companies, you do have this perception that technology is an option. And I think the guys who are really succeeding are people who are taking the bull by the horns and saying that, look, we will really leverage technology for every aspect of our business. as I mentioned earlier, whether it's marketing, sales, supply chain, people engagement, and people are seeing that story happening in front of them. These are the guys who are really transforming. And as we go into the next 3-4 years, there is going to be more global competitiveness. There are recessionary trends today, even in the American economy. So given that, I think you'll really have to marshal your resources, and using the power of digital, to my mind, will really help the successful companies to stand out against competition.
How do MSMEs in India compare with the Asian peers when it comes to the use of technology and products? If you can, give us a comparison for our viewers, what has your own observation been, Ganesh?
Well, I think again it's a mixed bag, because I was involved in a very interesting research study by INSEAD in Singapore, where we actually polled medium and small companies across Asia to say how are they looking at digital. And some of them are mind-boggling, in terms of their whole approach, irrespective of the size of the company. So I think that vision in terms of true transformation as compared to our peers in Asia is missing to a certain extent. Having said that, I mean, there are islands of excellence. I have seen many companies and many small entrepreneurs who are really leveraging it extremely well. There's one company in Pune that I've been speaking with. They are very small, but at the same time very aware of what and how they can transform their business. So I think it's sporadic. It needs to be a movement, which is what I hope to do. I mean, including in my roles in CII, Nasscom, Indian Merchants Chamber. And I think a lot of us have to work together to make sure that digital transformation happens, not only amongst the MSEs and the user companies, but also among small technology companies who can make the difference as far as their clients is concerned.
Everyone talks about the government business in India, Ganesh, but do you think that it really presents a big opportunity for the industry? What's your own commentary on how MSMEs can really make the best of that opportunity?
See, I would think that, people have to approach it with an open mind. I mean, we ourselves, when I was running Zensar, I mean, we took up 2 or 3 fairly significant government contracts, and including in the Digital India space, in the Pune Smart City. So there were quite a few interesting projects that we took up. I believe that today the way government is going, I mean, with the Prime Minister Modi's Digital India and also some of the opportunities in Make in India as well as Skills India, where there is a lot of digital components involved, presents a lot of opportunities. I mean, I myself am very closely involved with the evolution of the Pune Smart City, and the kind of technology investments that are being made by the Municipal Commissioner and the Smart City Special Purpose Vehicle are mind-boggling. So I think if companies are really looking at places where they can showcase very innovative technologies, the Smart City program is really going to be one of those. So not just smart cities, as I said earlier, Digital India, Make in India, etc. All these are opportunities. I think we have a very proactive Ministry of IT or Department of Electronics and IT. We have a very strong Secretary of DAITY. All that put together, I think, is making for a very potent mix. So anybody who has kind of kept away from government in the past, my own advice would be that, take it seriously, because this could present a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for the IT sector, really working with government and making India more competitive.
Let's talk about Tier 2 and Tier 3 companies and towns. Do you think that companies in the MSME space are in a position to first understand the opportunity correctly and be able to tap it?
Well, the opportunity is certainly there. I mean, if you look at the next tier of companies, beyond the large metros, I mean, take an Indore or a Chandigarh or a Ludhiana, for instance, there is significant productive activity there. I mean, manufacturing, retail, etc. And any MSME which kind of chooses to play in the second tier and third tier towns will see enough opportunities. I mean, again, as big initiatives like the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, it really connects up the entire, the 4 or 5 states involved in that. Again, you'll see the proliferation of bandwidth in terms of broadband connectivity, everything beginning to happen. So I'm an optimist. I really believe that the real opportunity for India lies beyond the top 5 or 6 metros and will really lie in the next maybe 40, 50 cities. Again, as 100 smart cities come up in the country, all these will have better connectivity, better use of technology. So I think people have to look at not only what opportunities lie there today, but what opportunities will emerge in manufacturing, in retail, in low-cost financial services, healthcare, even education and skills. And within that, if they can build a point of view, build their value propositions, I think there is money to be made and actual business to be done across small cities in India.
How do you see companies participating more in the Make in India campaign, Ganesh? Do you see MSME technology companies, for example, participating more closely in this effort on the part of the government?
No, I agree there is some confusion in that area because, I mean, while there has been a lot of talk on Make in India, in the initial stages it's really been focused on attracting investments into India in electronics manufacturing, large corporations like GE, etc. And I think the real opportunity will come when not only are overseas companies setting up large factories in India, it will also happen when Indian companies start expanding and diversifying capacity within India, because that will set in place a very significant ancillarization movement, because all the ancillary companies that will come up maybe in satellite townships across the industrial corridors that I alluded to earlier, that will really set off a kind of chain of events which will result in increase in productive capacity and also give huge opportunities for companies. It's still some time away. I would think that, as the investments in infrastructure gets solidified, which is beginning to happen, you will start seeing manufacturing capacity build up happening all over again. So my own belief is that over the next 6 to 12 months, you'll see the emergence of that change. And once that happens, then it'll be a juggernaut, because then it'll really cascade, and I hope that we'll see a stage where manufacturing will power India to this 10% growth that we're all dreaming about.
All right, Ganesh, do hold that thought. We'll take a very quick break and come back with much more on the other side. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and I'm in conversation with Ganesh Natarajan. Let's talk about skill availability and talent really in India. Do MSMEs face a challenge in your opinion as far as skill availability goes, and what advice would you have in terms of bridging the gap between availability and requirement?
Well, that's true, and in fact it's been true even for the IT sector, and it's true for retail, it's true for financial services. But I think it's changing a little, because I think the skill availability is improving in this country. I mean, clearly there's a lot more to be done. But so far, I think our problem has been that inadequate job creation. And I myself, both through 5F World and personally, I'm very involved in one of the very large skills initiatives in India, a company called Global Talent Track. And at GTT, I mean, we've been training in the region of 50 to 60,000 people a year. We are finding that the propensity to learn new skills is going up. And even in small towns where we're operating, we're finding there's a lot of willingness to learn new things. So once you combine that willingness to learn new areas with the opportunities that Make in India, Digital India will create, I think you'll see that changing. I think we're coming out of a time when there's been a bit of a stagnancy, because there hasn't been adequate economic growth, there hasn't been adequate jobs available, and hence the skills movement has also suffered a little bit. But I mean, it's a virtuous cycle. I mean, once skilling accelerates, which I'm seeing beginning to happen, once the infrastructure is available and productive capacity is built, then I think the availability of people and hence the availability of opportunities to grow jobs as well as the economy, that's going to be substantial.
Is training for the training for these employees by companies, like for example what Infosys has done at Mysuru, at an individual level, do you think that's the only solution? And is this the cost that MSMEs can afford to take on?
See, actually there are some interesting models emerging. I mean, just to give you one or two models, one of the things we pioneered in GTT, for instance, was what we call the source and train model, which really means that if each company identifies for the next 1 year what is the talent requirement, so not only can they go and recruit from campuses early in the year, but also have a steady stream of people who have been sourced from even small towns, trained to their requirements and placed in the company. Then there are other initiatives like what Genpact has been doing with Nasscom Foundation, or even large multinationals are doing like Barclays, etc. And these are again initiatives where people are being trained or skilled ahead of requirement, which means that you're training a large body of people and then finding that there's enough talent available to choose from. So both these are happening. I'm also finding that people are now very seriously considering investing in technology for learning. So even within the companies, in fact, this is one of the initiatives again that we are funding through 5F World. We're finding that there is a huge requirement of saying that, look, instead of just putting people into classrooms and kind of training them just in case, can we give them better technologies, better capabilities, maybe through their mobile phones, through their computers, where they can learn just in time and learn the kind of skills that they want to learn, as well as what the company wants to learn. So I think you're seeing a paradigm shift happening in the way people are recruiting, the way people are skilling, and the way people are doing ongoing learning. And that itself will, I think, transform the talent availability in this country.
Ganesh, when it comes to investing, because you also invest now as a part of IF World, what are the top 3 traits or top 3 things which really attracts you to a company that makes you want to invest in one company versus another?
I'll illustrate this with an example. One of the early companies I had invested in was a company called Aurus Networks, and that was through Indian Angel Networks. And if you look at the reason why I invested in them in the first place, which is the investment philosophy we're carrying forward into 5F World, the quality of the team. Two young IIT guys, really have a great passion for transforming the way skills was happening in the country. So which is why we invested in them in the first place. Recently I met the CEO Piyush in Delhi just literally 3 days back. And if you look at their journey, right from raising Series A venture capital to being able to adapt their model to be looking at new opportunity areas and adapting their technology to make that happen. So flexibility in terms of their own approach has been very important. And I think they've tied up their financing to a significant extent. So even while there was a slowdown for maybe 2 years, they could still survive and actually grow. So to summarize, what I'm saying is a very good team with a strong vision, the ability to stay steadfast to what they're doing and maybe look at opportunities which are adjacencies which they can invest in, and ensuring that they have a funding pipeline which will sustain them through tough times. So I think we look at these 3 things in companies, and today what we're doing in 5F World is exactly that. Do they have a sustainable idea, and it's not just a copycat idea taken from the US which may not last, but something that is serving a discontinuity in the marketplace, and the team which is good enough and has raised enough financing, including us, to sustain on the long journey. So I think if you look at these 3 things, my belief is that there will be more success stories in startups than we've probably been seeing at this point of time.
Ganesh, a lot of companies write into us from the technology space, of course, asking what specifically Nasscom has in terms of policies, in terms of support for the MSME space.
Well, I think Nasscom has been doing a stellar role in the sense that we have the 10K startups program, the 10,000 startups, which has been very successful both in terms of mentoring and making things happen. The National Product Conclave that we do every year in Bangalore has been a runaway success, because so many young product companies have met with visionaries in the products ecosystem, been able to visit them in the US and really get both funding, mentoring, new ideas. So I think Nasscom is doing a phenomenal job. I think what the momentum that we are seeing in Startup India and everything else, I think Nasscom could take a lot of credit for that. And that's something that I think will sustain, whether it's through Nasscom, iSpirit, Indian Angel Network, a new ecosystem that's evolving in Mumbai that I'm participating in called One Crowd. So all these are ecosystems which will take the entire startup system forward.
Give us a sense of, mentoring and the role that it really plays for MSMEs.
Mentoring is important. Of course, today the hype is around coaching. It's almost like, everybody above the age of 40 seems to have an executive coach. But mentoring is, I think, extremely important, because where you need a mentor, especially when you're a young company, is it enables you to avoid making the mistakes that people have seen before. Like I mentioned earlier, so many people are just saying, okay, I'll get 20 lakhs from my friends and family and just set up a company. And within 6 months, the money runs out, you don't have a path to raising more money. And a good mentor would have advised you that, look, don't start till you are able to build your product. So mentors can really guide you in how to build your product, how to start looking for maybe ecosystem partners who can help you to scale, at what stage do you bring in professional management or really expand your management team. So literally every inch of the way you would look at it.
What your advice would be to MSMEs in terms of finding a right fit mentor?
Where do you find good mentors? I would really think that people who have succeeded in business, either in an entrepreneurial capacity or in an executive capacity, are very good mentors to have, because they've seen these, both visibly as well as in a tangential sense. They've kind of experienced this as part of their career, and it's good to have that mentor. So whether you have that mentor on your board or you have that mentor just as a personal advisor to the growth strategy of your company, very important to find the right mentor, and very important also to listen to their advice, because no point in having a mentor if you don't decide, or if you decide that you will pretty much do whatever you want to do.
As you're winding down this conversation, Ganesh, you've just written your latest book. Tell our viewers more about that.
Well, the last book I wrote, of course, is one of 9 books I've written. The last book was really a celebration of Zensar itself, because we wrote the story of what is titled From Startup to Global Success. Well, that's exactly what Zensar was. Growing from 400 people in 2001 to being a significant success story in the Indian IT landscape, I think that was a success. And both me and my colleague Pramila, who is the Executive Vice President of Zensar, we had a real fun time because the book has excerpts from customers, shareholders, employees, and we really had a great time putting it together because it kind of enabled us to relive our experience over the last 15 years, and that's kind of got capsuled very well by Sage Publications in the book.
All right, let's wrap this conversation up. Ganesh, a quick last word in terms of what, say, the next 5 years are looking like for you personally as well as from 5F World.
Well, I think we are at the beginning of a very interesting time because the country itself, the way I mentioned it earlier, I see tremendous stuff happening in this country in the next 3, 5, 7 years. And we want to be at the kind of cusp of that opportunity. So 5F World, I think, is there at the right time. We will put in whatever money we have to raise money at some appropriate point of time. But the opportunities we see in terms of guiding young people, putting them on the right path, investing in their value propositions and making it happen, and maybe making our own significant investments in 2 or 3 areas is really very exciting. So personally, I'm at the most exciting stage in my career, and in the next 10 years, I hope that I can play a role in building great value for shareholders of 5F World, as well as building value for the country, because I think India is at a phenomenal opportunity, and I'm excited to be part of that.
Wish you all the very best in that, Ganesh. Thank you so much for
you.
speaking with us. That was an exclusive conversation with Ganesh Natarajan. Do remember that you can write to us with any queries you may have at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com. You can reach us on social media using the hashtag LOT or call us on the number which is on your screen. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.